Hello and welcome to another episode of Talking Wrestling with Palm Water Dave. I'm Palm Water Dave. Joined with me as always is the First Lady of the Arn Anderson Fan Club, Miss Amy Vaughn. Amy, how are you? You're muted, Amy. Professional production here, Amy.
Oh, I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for just crushing all the momentum out of my
That
perfectly
is,
executed open, Amy.
I know, that is my sole purpose is to crush anything.
Knocking the wheels off 32 seconds into this thing.
It's only going
Our
to get
guest
worse from here.
Our guest tonight is a fellow professional wrestling referee that does a lot behind the scenes. He's a researcher for Chris VanVliet and our good friend Conrad Thompson. He's also the producer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Welcome to the show, Mr. Derek Sabato. Derek, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
You're a fascinating dude.
No kidding.
My wife tells me that all the time, but I'm not really sure I agree with her.
Well, I mean, you got two of the best in the business that rely on you heavily.
It's fun. It's a lot of work, but it's enjoyable. Doing this for now with Conrad for four years, I guess. Yeah, 4 years now. Just every day presents a new challenge, and it's always fun to have to think on your feet and go through the whole process. We've grown in so many ways, and I have a support staff now, which is very, very helpful at the end of the day, trying to coordinate everything. But it's fun to be able to go through it all and research it all and come out with a finished product. And I can't do it obviously without the host and the talent. It's just the guy who types at the end of the day.
Is there ever a topic that you get that you're just like, man, I mean, you just have zero interest in it? But by the time you've done the research on it, it becomes something that you unexpectedly loved.
It's funny because when I started doing the research, I got the list of topics. And as my role and job has evolved, I've actually become the one who does the topics. So I don't want to do something that I don't think fans like me want to hear or know about. So I try to put that into perspective of when coming up with the schedule. Obviously, going through Bruce is tough to do topics for because they've covered so much, and it's hard sometimes to not overlap on top of it. And the last thing we want to ever do is be redundant, but there's always a way to find another story, maybe something that was brought up in a bio that might not be brought up in event topic. So that's the fun part for me, is really digging into all the stuff that we can cover. But there are times that the guys will recommend topics, and I find myself diving in to learn more about it before I actually format the show. Jeff Jarrett's a perfect example of that. I grew up a little bit of a Memphis fan, but living in Northeast, it was hard. And I've done a lot of research since Jeff's podcast started, all Memphis, world class, things I haven't had to really dive into. And it's just all aspects of it. It's just fascinating. So I think I always say I'm the target audience. I grew up a wrestling fan. I was 14 years old when the Attitude Era hit, but doesn't mean I didn't watch before. I'm the demo. So at the end of the day, what I want to hear discussed is what I think is going to work for our fan base. And I don't think I've missed on many topics. Jeff Jarrett might disagree on a couple of them, but
he did early.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. If you're listening to this show, you probably know which podcast we're talking about. But just in case you don't, Derek does research for 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff, My World with Jeff Jarrett, Something to Wrestle Bruce Pritchard, What Happened When with Tony Schiavone.
That one we don't do research on. I just schedule the topics.
Okay.
So I'm the one who keeps track of what shows he has not watched. But if you listen,
and you do Grill and JR too, don't you?
Grill and JR. Foley is Pod. I do the Kurt Angle show. I do Oh You Didn't Know with Road Dogg and Casio. feel like there's another one that I'm forgetting about off the top of my head. I think that's all of them. God, how many podcasts do we have? 1, 2, 3.
A bunch.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all. So
More than I can listen to.
It's my job, and it's very hard to do so sometimes. So it's that one's fun on time management.
I just finished My World today, and I started listening to it Monday.
I haven't started it yet. I hope Jeff doesn't know that, but I have not got a chance to listen to it yet. It is on my agenda for the weekend. But everybody being in Tampa, we recorded a lot ahead of time, so I now have, I think, a day to catch up on everything. So I hope to catch up. I think I watched Shivani live. I have to listen to Jeff. Bruce had another one drop that I'm going to get to after Jeff, and I think
just started that one today.
Yeah, I think I'm caught up on everything besides that because Girl and Jar was studio sessions. I was told that Kurt just recorded a great episode with Paulie. So we had Josh Alexander on the show. So him and Kurt watched back both of his TNA matches with Will Ospreay. So they got to discuss match layout, how you would do it, and Kurt got to watch the matches, critique them. So that should be a fun episode. And I think Kurt's strength is having guests on at this point in time. We've covered a lot of his career. But him being able to analyze and do watch-alongs, that was a big part of what we were hoping to do with Regal's podcast when it started with Matt Kuhn. And it just got difficult to find topics because he's very careful about what he wanted to talk about and to discuss.
Right.
And Matt did a great job managing that. But at the end of the day, William Regal's forgotten more about wrestling than some of us could ever learn about. So we think his strength was breaking down wrestling and discussing it, just like he would have at the Performance Center with kids or in the ring before AEW, he would do the same thing. And I think that conveyed a lot during that podcast once he found his groove. I wish it didn't end, but I understand why.
Yeah, sometimes I was going to ask you, do you just know instinctively? I mean, do you put stuff in research that you know that there's no way they can talk about it? I'm sure there's restrictions with Bruce, there's restrictions with JR, there's restrictions with, anybody contracted, there's got to be some restrictions.
JR
don't care.
Yeah, JR don't give a shit. JR will talk about, we can lay out what we want to discuss. And once he gets going, Red Ass JR sometimes gets hot. There were some things
he said that when he announced that his contract was coming up and it hadn't been renewed yet.
Yeah.
Part of me's like, man, I hope they renew JR. Well, maybe it'd be better for the podcast if they don't.
There are things, we're coming up on the 5-year anniversary of AEW. There are things I would love to find out, the birth and everything that started with him and how he got involved with them. And, was it Tony Khan? Was it somebody else? I'd love to be able to sit there and have that podcast. And we love to do anniversaries. I don't know if we're going to be able to do that one, but I have it on the schedule for hoping that we can discuss it. And we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But I don't think we know Bruce's restriction. Can't talk about anything current.
Right.
But we touch on it sometimes. Sometimes it just happens to blend and be part of that conversation. Everybody else, you would think Dog would have restrictions? Nope.
Dog's pretty wide open for someone that actually works there.
Yes. So
that low key may be one of my favorite I stop down and listen when there's a new episode because I don't even care if they have a topic. I laugh for an hour.
Same as Dog. We'll get in the recording. He's like, what are we talking about? Royal Rumble 2019. Shit, I probably should have read the research. Yeah, you probably should have. Yep. He's like, all right, give me like 5 minutes. We'll scan the document. Like, all right, I think I remember most of this. Let's go. At the end of the day, I don't think his podcast ends up being the same as Bruce and the same as JR probably is. I think Dog and Jeff are kind of the same when it comes to discussing wrestling and breaking down psychology. And this is why, and how, and happened. One of the big things that we've gotten into this year with Road Dogg is his thought process and philosophy on professional wrestling. And I think that's like one of the cool things of him breaking down what a babyface is, how he was taught in the business. The essence of tag team wrestling is coming up soon. We just recorded, Road Dogg Stoltzman being a heel. How has that changed in the last 40 years? Because he grew up in the business. And I think the philosophy of being a wrestler, then an office guy, then back to being a wrestler in TNA, a little bit production, agent, back to being a head writer, running the show, being the guy on SmackDown, running it at the same time you're coinciding with Raw. How does that all come to be? He has more knowledge than I think a lot of people have given him credit for. This dude's done everything with everybody at any point in time in the business. He went on TNA and literally shit all over Vince and Hunter, and then came back and worked for Vince and Hunter 5 years later in a professional writing type of role. So just shows you, eventually everybody comes home, but also not many people can say they went out there and mocked openly on TV Vince McMahon, maybe besides Eric Bischoff, and ended up being fourth in the food chain of TV. Yeah. And that story itself is great, but he also has fun. And I think that's, JR is super serious sometimes, and, he gets a couple jokes in, but Dog can sit there and bullshit his way through an hour. But if he gets invested in a topic and in a conversation, he'll go all the way. And I think the heel conversation they just had this past week, which I've lost track of when that stuff's going to air, because he's been filling in for Bruce on the road and he doesn't really have much free time right now. When it comes out, I think it's one of the best episodes he's done, because he just dissects being a heel and how it's evolved from the Southerns, from Bullet Bob all the way up to what is now the NWO, DX, the whole process of how heels changed, heels became baby faces. Cool. It's a lesson in psychology. And I think the more this wall has been broken down between, real and fake and work and shoot and all this, a lot of guys have grown up in the business that it's not always, well, back in my day, this is how the business has evolved. And if you're not going to be part of the evolution and you're continuing to hold the business back, you're just not going to do it.
I'm going to tell you, I'm beyond impressed with Road Dogg just from when we worked with him at Ric Flair's last match.
Yes.
I mean, from the
very
time
well
he
organized
came out and had the meeting with the talent.
Yep.
And he was so calm all night long. And he didn't beat you to death.
Nope.
He's in your ear. He's a calming voice. He tells you what he needs, and it's just smooth.
Yep.
And he's not, if he's frustrated, he didn't show it. And of course that everybody was hitting their times, and they were
coming in light.
But when you mentioned
amazing.
Jeff being how Jeff gets, Jeff was in Gorilla at Top Guy Weekend, and even for that, he was more yelling.
Yep.
Wasn't being hateful, just his sense of urgency was different.
Yep.
Road Dogg was more laid back and getting it done. Jeff had a sense of urgency.
Yep.
It's just really something.
Two different personalities that I think play off well for each other, because they've known each other forever and ever. And I think that's like the perfect balance between the two of them, especially Jeff. Jeff is a perfectionist. Road Dogg slides with it. And I think that's like a good way of like breaking those two down. Jeff prefers structure, and if something gets out of line, he wants to make sure we're going to get back to it. Dog more rolls with the punches and I think, is more laid back in that thought process, and take it from someone who's gotten the wrong side of Jeff before, and it's not fun sometimes, but he expects the same level he's giving, he's going to get back. And I think that's an important part of that.
Well, I love talking about the podcast and stuff, but I want to take several steps back. Okay. So you said you're from the Northeast. Where are you from?
Southern New Jersey, 25 minutes outside of Philadelphia.
Okay. And you're 14 when the Attitude Era came around. So were you watching who you were watching before the Attitude Era, you said,
Yes.
correct? So who were your favorites growing up?
Well, my first wrestling memory is Austin Idol and Jerry Lawler in a cage match on ESPN where it was hair versus hair, and Lawler got his head shaved, and that was the first real wow, this is entertaining. Like this is like what is this? This is not, the normal sports I'm watching at 3, 4 years old. Uh, I mean, from there, I being in the Northeast, I was a WWF guy, Hogan, Warrior, Savage, all the stalwarts of that era. I was a big Bret Hart guy. Uh, the really nice way to say this is I wasn't a Flair fan until I started to watch his older stuff.
Mhm.
As I grew up and did a little bit more, Flair in the 90s for me, it just didn't click. And part of that is growing up in the Northeast, watching the Spectrum shows, Monsters versus Hogan, heel, 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 always lost. Flair always got by, and I didn't buy into that. And as my appreciation of the sport has changed, especially in my 20s when I would go back and watch it, it's a whole different level and a whole different understanding of the business. But from there, it was Austin when he got hot in '97. I was never an NWO guy. I always thought WCW was a less superior product. It always felt like when people jumped to WCW, it was because they were old and the WWF was done with them. So I followed along that mantra. I was a big Sid guy, just commanding personality. I was always give me the promo guy, give me the personalities as I got into my teenage years. So when Austin started flipping everybody off and telling him I'm going to kiss his ass and stunning everybody, I got into it. It was hard not to. And then I was never a Taker guy. Still am not a Taker guy. Much respect for everything he's done, but just it didn't do anything for me. Big fan of the Kane storyline. Big fan of Foley, Rock. Hard to not include him in that conversation. But as I got into, when I was 12, bear with me. I was born in 85. So 12, 13, I discovered ECW, Raven, Sandman, all that, more hardcore. Found out that there was a local company towards me from WOW Magazine called Comets on Wrestling. Like dudes, Bar Wire, Fire, hooked me. So like the hardcore guys, I got into very, very quickly in my mid-teens, 15, 16. Being that close to seeing light tubes explode and things like that, it was a whole different ball game. So that pushed me more towards ECW and the hardcore wrestling and blood and guts and all that fun stuff. And Sandman was one of my all-time favorites. Taz, big fan of Taz, commanding personality, things like that. That was my big thing. I always watched, but I would be in and out of interest sometimes. But at the end of the day, if it wasn't for Monday Night Raw, probably would have stopped watching wrestling, and I never would have discovered ECW living anywhere else because it didn't have the TV at the time. So that's really what kept my interest when most people my age were getting out of it. We're not collecting the figures anymore. We're not watching Saturday morning, superstars or anything like that. Without ECW, I probably wouldn't have continued to be a fan. And I have no idea what my life would have been like if that never happened. So I'm not really sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's a trip to look back and watch the evolution of the business from growing up in it, getting into it very young, and then see where it is now. Just crazy to me that it's gotten to this point, especially with everything going on the last couple of days. This is for you, by the way, Dave.
No, appreciate that.
So did you ever desire to be a wrestler?
Took a couple bumps. I wanted to be the guy booking. I would take Inside Wrestling and PWI and do the rankings and make the matches and things like that. I trained for a couple months. Body wasn't built for it. Falling the first time on a wrestling mat reminded me I'm not built for this shit. Kept trying though. It wasn't my thing at the end of the day. So I got out of that pretty quickly. Referee was an easy transition only because we had to one night at a very underground professional wrestling light tube match taping, and the referee didn't show up and put me under a mask and said, "You can count to 3, right?" I said, 1, 2, 3. And they're like, "All right, you're in." So, the first night I was ever in professional wrestling inside a wrestling ring for taping or in front of a crowd, it's a light tube cage match, and there's no crowd. And we did it in an empty arena, and I wore a mask. So
How
that
old
was
were
my.
you?
Who was that for?
Combat Zone Wrestling. We're filming the Ultra Violent Underground. Not our looking back, not our finest moment. But the Pennsylvania State Athletic Commission actually prevented us from having these types of matches in front of an audience. We were doing very bad on DVD sales, so we came up with a concept to do these matches, empty arena, in front of no crowd. No one could get hurt, which was their big objection to it. I was, that would have been 2004, so I was 19.
19. Okay. And is that really what started your refereeing career?
Absolutely.
And where have you refed at?
All right, I repped for Combat Zone Wrestling, Chikara Pro Wrestling Unplugged, IWA Mid-South, IWA Deep South. There are so many little indies I did that really I don't count. C4 in Canada. Let's see, I didn't do Florida. I'm trying to run them off the top of my head. Women's Extreme Wrestling, which I will never put on a resume, and I'm kind of regret already saying that out loud.
Oh, no, you got to tell us why.
Women's Extreme. I got to Google that.
Women's Extreme Wrestling I got booked for it because my buddy Eric Orjulo was doing commentary, and he's like, "It's a very easy $200. You'll get to sit in the back. You'll work one match. We need a gimmick of just a guy refereeing these matches. And the goal of it is that you get put in a compromising position and you have the facials to be able to do it." Great. So they actually did end up booking some actual wrestlers eventually, but it was a pay-per-view entity. They did really well with it. Not a surprise, but not a glowing moment or anything like that. I did a couple Ring of Honor dark matches when he would run in Philadelphia. That's like my biggest claim to fame is CZW and Chikara. I was actually heel referee for both companies at some point in time. I was a heel manager for Chikara for a handful of shows. I've worked with a lot of the guys you see on TV now. But yeah, it's not the most glamorous professional wrestling referee career, and I'm happy I did it. It got me to be able to do Ric Flair's last match, so I'm happy for that, but nothing that stands out other than me getting thrown in a barbed wire and thumbtacks before. So nothing that I'm super proud of. Nothing I want my kids to watch.
Chikara's a different presentation.
Absolutely. Lucha Libre, kid-oriented, very much fun. Character-driven, comic book-based, dives, lucha, but they integrated and evolved over time as well. You want to talk about a well-organized professional wrestling show? You want to talk about a script? There would be 7 matches and 5 pages of notes up on the locker room when you got there. Very well organized, demanded the time to be hit. It's just, he did it right. Mike Quackenbush. He was very well organized, did not he reminds me a lot of Jeff Jarrett, and I would imagine that's how Jeff Jarrett would run a locker room. This is what your plan is. This is what we're going to do tonight. Don't deviate. Keep to your times. Do not go out of your way to do something I don't want you to do. And I think I learned that from Mike, because before I would book for ZZW, but I had no idea what I was doing. And I would show up and write stuff on a piece of paper, tape it up to locker room, palm order. I'm sure you've seen terrible handwriting with very loose definitions of what is going to happen that night. 8 to 10 minutes. Does that include entrances? I don't know. And that was the locker rooms I ran because I was never taught anywhere else. Going to Chikara brought me a whole different perspective on professional wrestling. And then when I got to Ring of Honor, it was like, okay, well, that makes sense. A more polished product, people that know what they're doing, they'll get there. when I booked for a very short period of time in CZW, I was 19. I had no idea what I was doing, and definitely should not have been in that position. But I didn't know what I was doing, and I would just throw some shit up on a piece of paper with an underline underneath it and be like, "Have fun." And that's not the way to put together a professional wrestling show.
What years were you in Ring of Honor?
Let's see. When I quit CZW, it was 06. So I did dark matches late 06, early 07. I can tell you, I remember one was in Edison, one was in or two were in Philly. I asked for a ride from a guy for the last show I was supposed to do because he was going up there, and he told somebody else, and it was posted on the internet that I was going to be at the show, and he canceled me. And I was like, "You're everything I always heard you were." So, not a surprise.
So how did you end up making that transition into your reffing? But now, like you said, you're like the research guru for all these wrestling podcasts and sites and different things like that. How did you transition? How did you go from reffing to doing what you're doing now?
I've always had a good relationship with Dave Meltzer, so I would help a lot of the
how did that come about? What do you mean?
I go out. I'm a big networker, so I'm in car sales for a living. So I'm always
you do what? I'm sorry.
I do car sales for a living.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So I'm a sales manager at a BMW dealership, and I've been selling cars for 20 years. My biggest thing is always you don't get what you don't ask for. If you're not going to ask for the sale, you're not going to get it. I'd reach out to Dave when we were working in ZZW, and we weren't getting a lot of not public, but like at the time we were getting no play in newsletters, and everyone was afraid to reach out to him and be like, "What do we do?" And I was like, "I'll do it. I don't care. At the end of the day, what's the worst that happens? He tells me to, fuck off. Okay. But if we don't, and we don't try for it, then we're not going to do anything, and nothing's going to change."
Right.
So I would just reach out to Dave and be like, "Here's our results, and here's what else is going on, and this also is happening. And by the way, Chikara is running," and like promotions I would work for, I would send him information on. It's not hard to build a rapport with someone who's accepting of information. Mm-hmm. So over time, Ring of Honor, Northeast Indies, people would funnel stuff through me to get to Dave because they knew we had a relationship. One night I was reading the Observer and literally just DM'd him on Twitter, and I was like, "I think you need like an actual proofreader. Like you've gotten to the point at this point where I'm reading things in here that just don't make any sense. So I can proofread for you. I can do 40,000 words a week. Do you need one?" And a couple weeks later, he was like, "Yeah, I just don't think my guy's doing it anymore. Can you do it?" Absolutely. Once again, you don't get what you don't ask for. So been doing that now for, I think, 8 years. Mm-hmm. From there, I just slid in Conrad's DMs one day. It was right after he announced Grill and JR and Arn, because it was, I think it was the same weekend. I was like, "I work for Dave. I know how to do research. I can't imagine you're having an easy time expanding like this. If you don't have the structure around it, you need someone." Right. And he said, "Absolutely. What's your phone number? I'll call you tomorrow." And that's it. So once again, you don't get what you don't ask for.
Yeah.
So if you're not reaching out, you're not trying to network, you're not trying to build your own brand or try to find a niche in whatever, no one's going to find you. And I just continued to ask. I got linked up with Chris VanVliet, StarCast Nashville last year. So total consideration of everything. I knew Claudio was going to be the special surprise guest that we were going to announce. We just had to wait for All Elite Wrestling. I've known Claudio, once again, 20 years. I was one of the first guys to book him when he moved over to America because we had CZW running at the time, and he came to learn how to continue to evolve because it really wasn't happening in Europe like it is now. I knew he was coming in. I sent Chris a bunch of notes. This is Claudio's career. This is everything he's done. Does it help that I've known Claudio all this time? Absolutely. But I don't like people not being prepared. StarCast was a really big deal. 2 months later, he was like, "Can you do this for my other podcast guests?" I'm like, "Absolutely." He's like, "Great, I can use the help." So once again, if you're not going out for it and you're asking for it, you're not going to get it. And I'm a firm believer in you're going to get back what you put in.
Yeah, I often say that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Absolutely right, Michael Scott. So at the end of the day, if you ain't going for it, you ain't.
Does that make me Dwight? Wait a minute. Hold on. Can I be Pam? Fine.
Is that an Office reference? I didn't watch The Office.
Yes.
So I'm vaguely familiar with it, but I didn't know that was one of their references.
Just sit there and look pretty, Pondwater.
So the gag behind that is he wrote on his whiteboard, "You miss 100% of the shots you take." Wayne Gretzky in very small writing, and then underneath that he wrote in bigger writing, Michael Scott. So it's one of the more iconic moments. I'm not even a big fan of that show, but it's.
I'm
impressed you got I'm impressed you got the reference though.
I made it my. It's funny. I had a phone number for a wrestling legend that I would give my left nut to have on my show, and I had somebody reached out to me. I had the phone number, and I sat there shaking like a dog trying to pass a peach seed for about 15 minutes, psyching myself up to make the phone call.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out to be a great phone call. But I mean, he's not coming on the show, but he had his reasons. And
sure.
But what I'm saying is I ended up talking to somebody I really wanted to talk to.
He's not coming on the show yet.
Yeah.
Still got time.
Yeah, never say never. But what I'm saying is that I have to tell them sometimes I get so nervous about what's the worst thing that they can say. And if they cuss me out, it's a good story.
You want a crazy night? I was the guy with a pickup New Jack when he worked for CZW from the airport. And when you think of New Jack, you think of all the craziness, right?
Yeah.
Pick him up from the airport. We take him to his hotel room. He goes, first thing we do before we go to the hotel, I need a fifth of vodka. No problem. Take him to the liquor store. He finishes the fifth of vodka before we get to the hotel. Well, we got to go get another fifth of vodka. So now we find another liquor store. Do you know who can sell weed? I don't feel comfortable answering that question, sir. I'm going to be honest with you. Well, if you can't find me weed, you got to find me a woman. Sir, I don't think I can help you with that either. Because what kind of fucking driver are you? I'm like, the one who's scared shitless right now. By the end of the night, I had a cell phone number. We would trade text. Great guy, but like intimidating as fuck. Scary dude. Great guy. If I turtled up and didn't, go back and forth with him and have banter with him, it would have been fucking terrible. He would have fucking hated me. I'm a very dry, sarcastic person at the end of the day. And if you can't take a joke, I'm probably going to come off like a cocksucker to you. But he takes it and gives it, and it was the perfect mix. So when he came back the next time, I was told specifically I have to be the only person that can pick him up.
Oh.
Yeah, it wasn't that great, Amy, because he remembered me. He was like, all right, so we're going to go to the liquor store. Did you get Weed Connect yet? Do you have any women for me? I was like, I somehow set myself up for failure being nice to him. But we ended up at a gentleman's club afterward, and he enjoyed himself immensely.
It's Titty Bar, Amy.
Yes.
No, thank you. I didn't know. Appreciate that info.
Derek, one of my greatest joys of this show is just screwing with Amy.
I've watched her show and I understand it completely. So
it's not very
she gives it out as good as she takes, though.
Yes, that is very true.
I'm gonna bite my tongue on that one. Amy, you had a question, I think.
I was going to say, so this is not your full-time job. Like, I really think, everything that you're talking about, like, you must be one hell of an organized person.
I try to
have this, because I really did think, between the Observer and Chris and all these different things, that would be something that you would have, or that you would do full time, but you have a whole nother job.
I have an actual job. I work 46 hours a week.
So what's a typical day like for you? What was today like for you? Maybe I shouldn't say typical day.
The good news is today I'm off. So me and my wife ran around, got our errands done. Thursdays are my day off. So I will prep for the weekend. I will go over what we have, taping, recording. Like when we're finished tonight, I will be doing a Chris VanVliet research for his next interview, which is happening tomorrow, and I will get the proof of the Observer probably around 10 o'clock. And it normally takes me 4 hours to go through everything, send back, get back, send back, get back. So I'm normally up to 2 o'clock in the morning on Thursday and the Friday. From there, I will, when I have a little bit of downtime at work, is when I format the shows. So Richard Land, who is part of my team, will send me what I call the data dump. So he'll compile all the stuff in the Observer and the Torch during whatever the topic is. And from there, I will decipher it into a show. So I'll cut things out, I'll include things, I'll break it all down. One of the biggest things that we have going on this weekend, thank God everybody's in Tampa, so it gives me some time to do this, is we're doing Jerry Lawler for Jeff Jarrett coming up next week. So I have to get Jeff his research super early on that one, because he will want to make sure we don't miss this, we don't miss that. His stories to make sure he wants to include in there. He's one of the few that will actually go through the research, construct it. We're missing this, we need this, we have to have this going on. JR, I can just send to him. Does he read it? Sometimes, I'm sure. Does he not? Sometimes, I'm sure. He's got a really good memory. Eric don't have memory for shit. Legit. And I will text him, like, we're thinking about talking about this. How much is this to your memory? He goes, nothing. No problem. Moving on to the next one. So we are, I feel like at this point with Eric especially, we're starting to run that line of, this is what happened before, this is what's happening now. How do we correlate the two together? And I think that change you're going to start to see in 83 weeks. It's been happening the last couple of weeks. The evolution of the show has to be, we can only cover 96, 97, 98, and 99 WCW. I think we've done it to death at this point.
And he's so good at the current, at just breaking down the current
yes.
stuff.
And
I mean, truthfully, it's the first 45 minutes is strictly business with Conrad instead of
yes.
Alba.
Yes.
And really,
and it's very enjoyable.
Yeah, Strictly Business is one of my favorites, to listen to him talk about the backstage and the things. Again, I don't know anything about TV production and numbers and how that sells and ad revenue and all this stuff. And I just think that's fascinating to listen to him talk about the things that are going on. And, a lot of speculation, again, from someone who, I mean, better than me speculating, at least has some information about, about the Netflix deal and who was going to buy and Endeavor and TKU, like you said, it's definitely one of my favorites.
Yep. Yeah. The parallels of today and what happened 25 years ago, it's not that much different. You have a competition brand trying to break through. They got hot. They never overtook. So that's really the big difference between AEW and WCW, is that AEW never became one. But they changed pay scales. WCW changed pay scales. They changed revenue rights. WCW changed revenue rights. There are so many parallels. I'll even say it. Issues in a locker room. Same thing. AEW and WCW had the same issues. The one consistent and constant has always been the WWF. They continue. I will never call the WWE. I'm sorry. It just will never happen. It's the WWF. If you say WWE, fuck you. It's the WWF, okay? But the WWF has been the key.
Say that to you, Dave.
I call it. I still call it WWF.
It'll never change for me. I don't care that it's been 21 years that it's WWE, and it's probably I've known it as WWE longer than WWF. It doesn't matter. It's WWF. But they've been always the consistent and the constant. So when WWF,
I'll go you one better than that, Derek. I never quit calling it TNA, and look how that worked out. I don't have to get used to. I don't have to get used to.
Now that you say that, I don't know that I've ever called it Impact. Ever.
Because I'm hearing Conrad calling it Impact and correcting himself, but I never quit calling it TNA.
I don't know that. I consider and tell you honestly, I've never called it Impact. So now that you say that, it's like, but I'll tell you this: I never called ECW in the second way. ECW. It was WWE ECW.
Yeah,
that wasn't ECW to me.
No, not even close.
That's the big. But the WWF has always been the constant. As they move and change in the business, everybody else follows. They're the industry leader. They're this and that. Bischoff is the only one who ever changed the way the wrestling business works in the golden era. Now, Vince changed the way wrestling works in 83, 84, and then evolved it, put Crockett out of business, had to make him sell to Turner. And at the end of the day, Vince continues to make people spend money that they don't want to spend, increase things. When Bischoff started spending more than Vince was spending, Vince said, no way, there's no way I can handle this. And really, at the end of the day, it was to drive down what he had to pay the boys. All these contracts now, all the competition money, Rock getting $30 million to become what is essentially the face of TKO doesn't happen without Bischoff.
Do you think, what do you think is bigger? The money that he got or the fact that he owns The Rock now?
All right. You're going to laugh at me when I say this. The Rock is dead. And I'll tell you why. He's been known as Dwayne Johnson on such a big scale for the last 15 years that the only thing that changes with him owning that trademark is that he's going to get paid every time the WWF wants to use that. That's all that changes. No one when he runs for president in like 4 or 8 years.
Seems like it's a cash cow.
It should be for that, but you got to remember something. He had an Under Armour deal with the Brahma Bull logo on it that doesn't say The Rock. Mm-hmm. But that logo is synonymous with him. He doesn't need that trademark other than whenever you guys want to utilize it and you want to use me for the UFC, you want to use me to go put in front of ESPN for when they're going to get a deal done, all that stuff, you're just going to pay me more. Outside of the spectrum of the WWF or TKO, I don't think it means anything at this point in time. He's Dwayne Johnson. Everyone forgets he was The Rock for 5 years. That's it. And then he would pop in, pop out, pop in, pop out. But he was The Rock for 5 years. When he got into movies, they called him Dwayne Johnson because the WWF owned the trademark. They were not trying to pay him or they were not trying to give them money to use it. So he grew out of that trademark. But when he would come back, he'd be The Rock. It's because Vince owned it. At this point in time, that's a leverage play. I don't think it's the money there. The $30 million, yeah. That's exactly what it comes down to.
I wasn't thinking just so much for the name as much as it was that the marketing.
Yes, I think there's some marketing. Absolutely, there's some marketing behind it. But now he gets to do something that no one else has ever done from the WWF, and that's take their name and take it back from them. And I think at Nick Khan cutting that deal is one of the smartest deals you'll ever see. That $30 million in the long run is going to be peanuts compared to the brand equity he brings to it.
They posted a picture of The Rock and Nick Khan and Nick Khan's sister. Mm-hmm. They had his tequila, and they posted a picture together and mentioned that they knew each other when they were kids in Hawaii. And I thought at that time, because this was before Endeavor bought the WWF, mm-hmm. I thought that they might be putting a group together for them to buy it. But when you see that this has happened, and now Nick Khan has managed to get The Rock on the board of directors, and with that deal, it was just so much bigger picture.
The long game of this, I will bet goes back at least 10 years. At least. And you can look at the people that are not on the board of directors.
Yes.
And figure out why they're not on the board of directors. And see some of the movement we're going to probably see in the next 6 to 9 months. Will be a direct result of the deal that was made this past week.
Nick Khan's probably been the most successful hire in professional wrestling history.
Oh,
not far. Even close.
And I've heard this a lot. I trained for 2 months How can you book something? How do you really know about it? How does Dave Meltzer contribute to a professional wrestling business where he's never taken a bump in his life? Nick Khan walked into a world that was full of carnies, drove a narrative for years about low rent, low scale, all this passive, lower income people watching professional wrestling. They don't buy anything. He walked into Fox's offices and said, I signed Ronda Rousey. That's it. That's what got them the Fox deal at the end of the day, was Ronda Rousey being a part of the brand. And that man walked into that office, and with the power he had built from negotiating deals and doing all this, got professional wrestling on network television for the first time, a weekly based ever. That dude walked into literally a world that does not accept outsiders. If you've never done this and you've never done that, how could you ever know? And said, fuck you. I'm going to show you how a business gets run. And he took the business and went and just lifted it up and brought them to a level and a height that Vince couldn't do. And Vince is the grand poobah. And I know there's a lot to talk about Vince today.
Well, yeah, we were getting there.
At the end of the day, Vince built it as far as he could. And when he couldn't build it anymore, he had to turn the keys over to someone that could walk in and go, why do we have pay-per-views on Sunday? Why aren't we doing this on Saturday? Look at everything else that's ever been done in sports. Why compete against the NFL? Stop competing against the NFL. Let's do it on Saturdays. And he just like that, changed PLEs. Who the hell ever heard of a premium live event until Nick Khan came on board? There is nothing at this point in time that he's walked into, hasn't touched, hasn't changed a facet of their business, and hasn't made the business, I'll say it, better, because revenue growth is up, attendance is up. You can point to all those things and just go, what's been the one change in the last 4 years? And it's Nick Khan. Endeavor doesn't happen without Nick Khan.
One thing I hope that they don't change, that they're talking about, is reducing their live events.
I hear you.
I understand that big corporations don't look at. I mean, I don't think they're lost. I don't think they lose money on live events, but I'm sure they're not. It's not, the margins aren't there.
No.
That the margins that they want, but those live events factor so much goodwill. Because
you're building fans.
I mean, we were just there. We just went to a live event Sunday night. And I'm telling you, folks, take advantage of seeing a live event while you can, if they're going to take them away from us, or at least from the smaller markets. But
it is much better than going to a TV taping. I will be dead honest about that. There was nothing that sucks more than sitting through a TV taping. And
even my grandson noticed this time. He said, when we come to these, there's so much, they don't seem as rushed. I mean, he didn't say, he said, these aren't as fast. These aren't as fast as watching it on TV. But these superstars build a rapport with fans. And I've been preaching on this show that Cody Rhodes is a heel. Cody Rhodes is a heel. He's Homelander. Eventually, when he turns, he's going to be Homelander. But I'm changing my mind now. I think that Cody Rhodes is the new John Cena to the kids. He's the next John Cena. And I saw him do the other night, as soon as the event was over, he got on the microphone and said, hey, y'all, I'm going to come around and I'm going to meet as many of y'all as I can.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to make me leave. And when they make me leave, I have to go. So don't get mad at me. I'm going to try to get out there and to meet as many of you as I possibly can. And
Such
it was genuine. And Conrad Thompson did me a solid. And I didn't even know that he was going to do this. He had reached out to Cody and let him know where I was sitting. And an official actually came and got us. My grandson thought we were going to get arrested. Thought we were getting arrested. He goes, are we getting arrested? And I'm like, no.
He hangs out with you way too much then.
But they pulled us over to make sure that Cody got to us. But the thing that impressed me so much about Cody is Cody didn't just look down at my grandson and my granddaughter. He actually got down and looked my grandson in the eye and, kind of put his hand on him and talked to him where he could hear him and just had an interaction with him as a person on his level.
Sold for life.
He hooked his pawpaw.
Yep.
He spoke to me and he hugged my wife, shook my hand, thanked us for coming out. Did y'all enjoy the show? But I watched him with all of his interactions, and I mean, that guy is. I mean, Conrad. In fact, Conrad slapped me one time because I said that I didn't see it, and
Cody's been destined for a long time,
and it's so that eventual heel turn because I still think he's a better heel, but I see it now that this is the second coming of John Cena with these kids.
He is everything they look for in a top guy. And he will be lucky to be the next Cena. I think if the crowd turns on him, and they did it in AEW, they turned on him. He put himself in a position in AEW that probably wasn't the best. I understand what he was trying to accomplish, but he will be damn lucky to produce the same merch levels that Cena did. And I think he can get there. I am over Roman Reigns. I'm over the bloodline. I think it's fucking beyond stale. I could give a shit about Roman and Rock. I think they missed a big opportunity last year with Cody. Do I think business is different if Cody wins last year? I don't think so. I don't think you would have seen an uptick or a downtick or the ratings would have gone down or anything like that. But I think they had a very small window of making two gigantic baby faces, Sami Zayn and Cody Rhodes last year. I think they blew it on both.
Yes.
And I think
the crowd would have turned on Cody if he'd got it.
I hear what you're saying.
They were force feeding us. I mean, if he'd have come in early in the Rumble and ran the gauntlet in the Rumble.
Yeah, I didn't like the way they booked him in the Rumble. I thought it was silly to bring him in.
Drop him in late.
Yeah.
Okay, this is our contractually obligated putting Cody Rhodes in the main event at WrestleMania.
Yep.
And that was my issue with it. I mean, he had momentum and he got hurt. But if they'd have brought him back and he'd have had a magnificent performance in the Royal Rumble, coming in first or second, running the gauntlet,
I don't
that might have done it. But the way they did it, I was just
my issue with the formatting of the Rumble is simple. You build it up that he was going to be returning, that he was going to be coming back. And then you wait to 30. And then you make it seem like who's number 30? It's fucking Cody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we all knew it was Cody. I don't know that I would have had him win the Rumble.
Yeah.
I really don't. I think it would have. I'm doing this from it's easy to turn back time and be able to say, this is how I would have armchair booked it. But going into it, I texted somebody in WWE and I said, if you guys were smart, you have Cody come in 15, 20, eliminate 10 guys, give him the diesel push, but you have Sammy be 30. And at some point, Cody gets thrown out by pick a heel. Cody gets thrown out. Oh man, he's not going to be able to, finish the story. And now he's got another program. And the pop that Sammy would have got winning the Rumble, you could have skipped Montreal. You didn't have to do that. You could have had Charlotte and Rhea night one. Could have had Sammy and Roman night two. There was no way you were ever putting Sammy for the title. Fine. No problem. But god damn if that wouldn't have been such a reaction. Mm-hmm. There was no need to have Cody lose. Cody could have had a big babyface victory 2 years in a row at WrestleMania. I'm back. Here I am. I'm back. Now I'm going to go get my stuff next year. And then you can do this chase this year. You could throw him, all these fucking stupid heels that, we're going to stop your story. No one has cut that promo. And that kind of drives me nuts. Cody comes out and says, I'm going to finish my story. And no one says, I want to shut the book on your story. It's right there. Someone fucking step up and cut that promo, please.
His story has become War and Peace.
It's going to kill him if
I
he
think-
doesn't do it this year, and it shouldn't be this year.
I don't think he should win it. I don't think he should win it at WrestleMania. I think he should win it, but I think if it was me, and not they've already put Gunther going towards Seth, but I would have had Gunther
Don't believe
win the
that.
Rumble.
That's
I would have
not
had
real.
Gunther beat Roman Reigns, and I would have had Cody beat Gunther at Madison Square Garden. And then he could have finished his story in the same building that his daddy held that belt up in.
I hear you. That story's not real, by the way. In the mess of everything that happened today, the Sports Illustrated guy who wrote that story tweeted out that the story was actually force-fed to him, and he's found out to be incorrect.
I did see that.
So
What
he
story?
slid that in today, that the Gunther, Seth, Punk, all that mess that came out the day before from Sports Illustrated.
Oh no! I mean, Gunther was on Raw the other night and told Seth, "I'm glad you're going to be there."
Oh,
I'm gonna
yeah,
win the
yeah.
Rumble.
I'm sorry.
Take it from you.
Yes. Gunther,
I didn't think anybody was left at Sports Illustrated to put a story out.
I didn't either. That's why when like the story came out, I was like, is this AI generated? Is this some dude just like, punch a bunch of fucking shit in and like be like,
Yeah.
oh, here's the story, we're good. But that came out anyway. I think Gunther's the real top heel. I honestly do. I don't give a shit about the Usos. It sucks. They're really good workers. They're super nice guys. I don't give a shit. This story is so fucking old. Can someone just put them out of their fucking misery, please? I'm over it. We're dragging. We always talk about.
I think
Eric,
splitting them I think it was a misstep
a
because when the turn
complete
happened,
misstep.
when the turn happened, both of them united to go against the world would have been.
Yep. So much better. Make them baby faces.
And even better than that would have been bring Jacob Fatu in with Solo, and then you'd have those two with Roman against the Usos.
There's a million different ways to run that story. Breaking them up,
yeah.
I don't agree with. I don't care. It sucks. But like putting Jay with Cody, you talk about fucking pulling a guy down by like lead. No one gave a shit about that tag team. And what we did 17 weeks of the Judgment Day with these fucking tag matches. Oh my God, enough. But I think they've gone too long with their story. That whole third inning comment last year, it feels like we're in extra innings.
Yeah.
It's too long. It's been drawn out too long. So have them win the title. Have them keep the title for as ever long as you want.
And it's driving me crazy because it's like he's this far away from. He just passed this.
Okay.
Like, yeah, but he's defended the title 56 times.
Right. It's a different business.
Because going back to what you said about your first exposure to Ric Flair was in the 90s. So my first exposure to Ric Flair was in the 80s. And that's when the champion had to defend the title all the time, at least once every 30 days. If they would just have Roman come in and he'd make a big deal, I'm here for my contractually obligated title defense. And then you just throw Tozawa in there with him or
something.
Or Hornswoggle. Bring Hornswoggle in. Somebody he can squash and make a mockery of the 30-day rule. That just puts more heat on him.
Yep. Instead, you got Nick Aldis coming out here trying to be him, and it's like it's great, but like, are you really doing anything yet?
I mean, Seth could have come out the other night and said, "I'm hurt. It's going to take me 12 weeks to heal. I'm not vacating the title because Roman goes over 100 days without a defense. So why not me too? I mean, I've already made my title mean more."
They make it seem like it doesn't exist. Like they pretend he's here when he's not here. They make it seem like he exists, but he doesn't really exist. And then he pops in. He cut the 30-minute promo that I fall asleep through halfway, and it's like, all right, when are we going to see again? I don't know, maybe 6 weeks. I don't know. I
mean, good for him that he's got that contract, but why do you have your title tied up on it? They did the same thing with Brock, though.
Yeah, I that's always been a Vince call. I will never understand having a top guy not be there every week. The way I was taught, Hogan was a promo every week. Did he wrestle? Nope, but he was on TV every week cutting a promo. Didn't have to be in front of the crowd. Could have been backstage. One of the biggest things, I got to sit underneath the learning tree of Steve Corino one night in the Ring of Honor locker room. And he said, if you ever run a wrestling company and not everyone is gunning for your championship, you failed.
Mm-hmm.
But if your champion's not on the show, what are we all chasing? What's the point of this? If no one wants to be champion, what do we do? If this guy doesn't want to show up, I don't know. I think it makes the company look like shit, and that sucks. But you can't make you did 5 years of him claiming that Brock didn't want to show up, and you're going to be here, and then you get the title, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to go be Brock now.
Yeah,
it's not heel heat. It's not.
Mm-mm.
I'm not going to perform in front of you people. That's heel heat, but you got to be there to do it. You got to be there to have that promo and say, I don't want to perform in front of you fucking people. And then your babyface commissioner comes out and says, you have to tonight, XYZ. It's simple. And
I don't think Roman has to have the title for what he's doing.
No, he does not.
He can be an attraction. I think having the title harbors resentment. I mean, look what Cena did. Cena came in for the summer of Cena, had the Open U.S. Championship challenge.
He worked every week.
That U.S. belt mean more than it meant in years.
Because Brock wasn't on TV.
And then Seth got that world title and
worked.
He's made it mean something. It's I don't
know. I think it's backwards right now, but
yeah,
I don't know what Philly's going to be like. I'm interested to see how this all plays out. Once again, my biggest thing is you got a Royal Rumble 4-way. Mm-hmm. Does anyone think he's losing?
No.
Does anyone really give a shit?
No.
It sucks. I mean, you took 3 guys that are really over that could have been in the Rumble. If you're going to choose to not have Roman on these shows, have him skip the Rumble.
I will say I'm intrigued that it's a hey, fuck you from Nick Aldis. Well, we're just going to put you and hey, all right, don't sign the contract. It'll just be for the vacant title.
Right.
I like Nick Aldis is bucked up on. I think something's going on.
Yeah.
With I think it will eventually lead to some physicality between Aldis and Roman.
And it's great. They're building a babyface up against them. But it's the commissioner right now.
I know, but I like it. I like it a lot. And
my worry is they won't get him over as a wrestler. I don't think the audience realizes that this big, strong guy, all they did was they shoved him out and was like, all right, he's a GM. Well, who is he? Well, he's the GM. But, like, why is he the GM? I don't know. Like, that's missing.
They could have even mentioned with him and Adam Pearce going back and forth. They could have he could have put Adam Pearce in his place that he was a better NWA world champion than Adam Pearce.
Something.
Then you've established that you have 2 former world heavyweight champions running each show. I know they don't like to acknowledge
they don't like using that, but
other companies, but
they I don't think their audience knows he's a wrestler.
I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if the majority of the WWE universe didn't know it.
You may give them a little too much credit. He looks like a wrestler, but so far he hasn't displayed any capability of doing anything other than being a GM. So you remember what the hell was his name? Armando Estrada?
Yes.
The manager for Umaga, right? They built him up as being this heel manager for 7 months. No one's to lay a finger on him until John Cena does. And they took 7 months to get there. And it was great. Heels get chased, baby faces chased. Aldis is the baby face. Right now, no one's chasing him. He's just being a thorn in the side. You got to have baby faces chasing and heels stay away from the chase. When Cena got his hands on Estrada, crowd went nuts. Why? Because it's the baby face chasing him. Make Aldis chase. That's great. You got to get him in the ring and you got to establish him. Because if not, at some point, he's going to be a guy who takes off his jacket. Great. Big dude, ripped, looks like $1 million. But you've had everybody else been laid by the wayside.
They'll have to make an example out of him.
Something. You got to give him something. And it can't be beating up on Paul Heyman either. Like, he's got to walk in there and beat the shit out of whatever Uso is with him.
If the bloodline destroys Nick Aldis in the ring, and then Nick Aldis, they would do like the Rocky story.
Yep, it's heat.
He's coming back. They would have to do some video packages with some footage. With some footage.
Yep, explaining
to establish that he has a wrestling background. And they do have a relationship with TNA through Endeavor that you could probably get
They can use the footage.
the Magnus footage, and
Scott D'Amore's not going to say no to having his footage on WWE TV.
And I would be shocked if Billy Corgan did.
Billy's tough.
Yeah,
Billy's tough. Billy's very. Billy likes that circle tight.
Well, I've got a couple questions. While y'all, I mean, I would have.
Sorry, I know we just fantasy booked the WWE.
We are.
I know. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I just, I was sitting there. Two things. What is the picture behind you? Because there's nothing else on your wall. It's not a picture. I can't tell what it is.
It is I moved into a house in February. I just got my office set up. I'm not kidding, a week ago. So that picture is the Philadelphia Art Museum when the Eagles had their Super Bowl parade. Upon Water Dave, you may be confused. This was actually in color, unlike the last time the Cowboys won a championship. But what it is, it's word art. So the artist actually wrote the name of every Eagles game in the history of the franchise until they won the World Championship.
Did the judge in the JP court inside the stadium get a Super Bowl ring when they won?
Now, that was Veterans Stadium.
Okay.
And that was years ago, and we have cleaned up our act, sir. Thank you. But yeah, it is a word art. A drawing's probably not the right word, but he did it in the picture of the art museum from the Super Bowl parade.
That's really cool. Okay.
Yeah,
well, I said,
I have more. I just haven't really got around to hanging some of this shit up yet.
Hey, and I like y'all's underperforming quarterback.
Same as yours. I hope he stays with the Cowboys for the next 10 years.
But your quarterback actually went to good schools.
That's true. Except we also went to the Super Bowl.
And I like.
Listen, I hate both of our coaches, and I'm very happy you kept yours, and I'm very unhappy I kept mine. So
I'm not very happy that I'm in a damaged relationship with the Dallas Cowboys.
I was gonna say, I thought you were stepping out, going with.
No, we're still together. Team. We're just still together. I just call them bitch a lot, and I'll cheat on them in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I mean that's why we looked at. Didn't we look
Sounds
at
like
other
teams
fans. Like the Atlanta Falcons? Like, didn't we talk about that last week?
We did.
Okay.
No, I didn't say the Atlanta Falcons.
So you're jumping ship?
Oh yeah.
Fair.
I'm so on the Detroit Lions bandwagon right now because I'm going to tell you why. They remind me of the Cowboys in '92 when they played the 49ers and they were the underdogs.
Dan
49ers
Campbell
didn't know what hit them.
Dan Campbell reminds me a lot of Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
Fire, passion, just a lot of it.
I think it's so cool. They've only won up until last week. They'd only won one championship game in 65 years.
Yeah.
One playoff game in 65 years, and they've won 2 in 8 days.
Yeah,
they're a fun team to watch.
They are, and I hate the 49ers. I really hope the Lions win.
With a dark purple passion. Ugh. I had a friend say, "You can come get on the 49ers bandwagon." I was like, "Nah."
No.
I'd rather watch my mother suffer.
Yeah, I can't get behind Brock Purdy. The whole locker room I hate after they cried about the way they went out, got eliminated last year. We would have won if our quarterback didn't get hurt. Your quarterback got hurt. The other one got hurt. He had to go back in. You guys couldn't do anything. Sorry, but it happens.
Yeah.
Okay. My next question, we'll see where this spawns off to. But no, my next question is, you were talking about how you lay out the topics and you are the demographic. And so I was just kind of wondering, when you first started, were there like things that, like the topics you were like, okay, I want this, and this. But like during your work day, like, are you ever hit by something and be like, someone mentioned something or you hear something and you're like, that's kind of how it. Anyway, so
coach knows how to make it hurt.
So that's just kind of how something will be said or something sparks a memory or a thought, and then you just then do you have to find out if there's enough research behind it to talk about it? You know what I'm saying? Like, how does that work?
So I plan out our schedules. November, I start working on November before the year turns, and I'll write down the years that we're going to go into, and Conrad's big on anniversaries, 30-year anniversaries, 35-year anniversaries, 10, 15. I'll map out all the shows. What have we not covered? Grill and JR has not covered a lot of the Attitude Era because we went right into the NWA, a lot of it. So a lot of his schedule this year is 1999. Bruce has covered a lot of 1999. So the one that we don't want to do is we don't like doing same topics for same shows. If there's a tweet that comes out that gets either mine or Conrad's attention, and it's like, we can talk about this. Have we discussed this before? Now, mind you, Bruce has done, I can tell you exactly how many shows Bruce has done, but Bruce is almost at 500 episodes. We have talked about a lot of shit. Bruce is at 425 episodes. We've talked about a lot of shit over the years with Bruce. Have we gone deep into this topic? I'll blow your mind. We have not done a deep dive on Kane. The thing that Bruce is most proud of in his WWF career, we have never done a deep dive on. Do you know who was surprised to see that? Me. And I map out the schedule. I was like, holy shit, have we really not done a Kane show? Now, Bad Blood 97, if you go back and listen to that episode, a lot of it was the birth of Kane. But after that, it's the month by month. We've never gotten into Glenn Jacobs, the evolution of the role, how he changed from being a guy who doesn't speak to speak. Was Bruce for that? There's so much there we've never gotten to. I was blown away doing last year's schedule. We have never discussed in-depth Batista. Shocked. And then I was like, great. This is going to be a 2 or 3 part episode. I will plan it out that way. How much can we get out of this? How much can we get out of that? If there's a tweet that comes out and Conrad gets mentioned in like every historic professional wrestling tweet that comes out from 1959, Jim Landis drew 30,000 people in Kaminsky Park. Or do you remember when we had the Thunderdome in 2021? He gets added and everything. So as he scrolls his feed, he'll send me something. One of the cool episodes we did last year for Road Dogg was Brad Armstrong and discussing the Armstrong family. He got a tweet that said, hey, have you guys covered this? And it was the anniversary of Brad Armstrong's death. And he sent it to me and he said, funny story. That's what they're discussing this week. So we do that a lot. There's a lot. If we accidentally tweet out a topic we've covered before, 50 people are like, didn't you already discuss this? Haven't you already talked about this? It is hard to keep track of it. I have a Google Doc that has links to every show that we've ever done, so I can keep a category check. Richard helped me out with that as well. We covered this, we discussed that. I don't know if there's a lot on this bone, but that's the whole point of being prepared.
Yeah,
I do the whole year schedule before we close out before we end the year. Here it is. I believe I have enough trust with Conrad at this point that he doesn't really double check me. I will run it by some of the guys. Hey, is this a topic you want to discuss? Do you have anything to discuss? If you don't, no problem. We'll move on from it. But I think I have enough trust with the guys at this point as well to where let's get into it. If you think there's enough there, it's there. Have I gotten into a topic before and halfway through I'm like, shit, we don't have a show here? One. And it was the Jeff Jarrett Austin 316 episode. And we had a time crunch and a taping crunch. And when I figured it out, we were 6 hours from taping. And I was like, all right, how do we fix this? So I pulled every quote I possibly could from Vince Russo. And at the end of the day, when we formatted out that show, it was for Austin 316. And this is where the disconnect was with Jeff. He thought we were going to talk about Steve Austin. Him and Steve have a long, long history, well before Austin 316. What we were getting into was Jeff's return, the impact of the Austin 316 promo, how it came to be, and the shit kicking he got when he walked through the curtain. Jeff thought we were going to discuss it all. When we were taping back to back, he didn't really get a chance to read everything I sent. It was super last minute because of taping capabilities, and that's why he got hot. I understand it looking back with him going, I didn't get enough research ahead of time. We would have tweaked this. We would have changed that. There was only so much to talk about that day. And that was the point of the show, was what happened when you came back to the WWF, you're given a script. Did you go off script? Did you shoot on him? Nope, it was cleared by Russo. I thought Russo cleared with McMahon. No one gave Austin the heads up. No one gave him the Iggy, and all of a sudden, Austin meet me at the curtain. If you really break down into it, it's an hour show. there's not a lot there, because the fallout that happened after that, was he planning to work with Austin in the future? No. Was he told that he was going to work with Austin in the future? No, but he wanted to make a statement, thought it was a good line, which, by the way, great line. Austin took the wrong way. We tried to build up a little bit of that previous relationship, but we based it around his dad, and that was our mistake. Austin didn't lay into him because of what Jerry Jarrett said, and Jeff pat him on the back and said, "You can keep looking at it, and it won't get bigger." That wasn't the crux of the heat. The crux of the heat was Austin being upset that he thought Jeff went into the business for himself. That episode doesn't get very far. Now, is it the most talked about My World episode we've ever had? Probably. Why? Me, because the heat got put on me, and it was my fault at the end of the day.
Right.
I should have raised my hand and said, "There's not enough here." Instead, I pumped a bunch of Vince Russo quotes in the format. It just didn't work.
Yeah.
That at the end of the day was my mistake.
What is your most proudest podcast moment or research moment? Like, is there a show that on a topic that, maybe people didn't really know a whole lot about, and you just were able to really open people's eyes and got a lot of good feedback or anything like that?
Now that you say that, the problem ends up being is I don't get to see the feedback sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I prefer it that way. I'm very happy not being tagged or associated with it or anything like that. I'm perfectly fine staying in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Conrad, at the end of the day, makes these shows what they are. I think my favorite episode, man, you put me on the spot on this one because I never really thought about it. I think one of my favorite episodes that we did was Grill and JR discussing Chris Jericho.
Mm-hmm.
And Jericho walking into the company, JR signing him, thought he was going to be hot shit. And like you saw the waves of like, there's this door, but Chris shut this door. That's one of my favorite ones. And I think you get everyone loves heat. I love Eric to death. Everyone loves heat. But the realistic nature of him signing Jericho and seeing him go through the ups and downs, I think it's one of the really underrated stories about how JR got invested in him, wanted him in the company, didn't promise him everything, but promised him enough, and then felt like he wasn't getting the chance to become something. And also, if you go back and listen to JR discuss Mick and Mick coming in and being signed by the WWF and Vince being like, he's going to break your heart, and the success that Foley ended up having and the pride you hear in that in JR. Bruce gets defensive about everything. JR really relishes, and Bruce rips him about it all the time. JR signed this guy, JR signed that guy. I think that's JR. He believes in his people that he's going to bring into the company. Jeff loves discussing everything. I think one of my favorite Jeff episodes was the Owen episode, and the depth of which he's never really dealt with watching his best friend fall from the top of a building to a turnbuckle and having to cut a promo, having to go out in that ring. Like, that is just a something I hope I never have to deal with.
Yeah.
And he had to deal with it and go right out there, go right to the hospital. And then you had TV the next day. And then you had the Owen Hart tribute episode. And then you had, the next day you're taping the next week's Raw. So that way everyone can go to the funeral. Like, he's never dealt with it. And that was an experience. And I remember Conrad texting me when that episode was over, and he goes, "That wasn't a podcast. It was an experience." Like, that's one of my prouder ones.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have any proud Bruce ones because I like fucking with him. I really enjoy putting in Dave Meltzer stuff and getting them all fucking hot and bothered about it. Conrad's the perfect straight man when it comes to that stuff.
Since you work with Meltzer, does any of that heat bounce off on you? Guilt by association?
To this day, don't know that Bruce knows I work for Meltzer. And I have done my best to not bring that point up.
All right.
So I hope that stays all between us.
And speaking of Meltzer, so what you do for him is just basically your proofreading. So like a big news day like today.
Yeah, it's going to be a terrible night for me.
So you'll get that.
Yeah. So
he has to immediately jump on that.
Yeah. So we always joke, and I'm checking my phone to see if I've gotten the draft. I've not yet, which is not a good sign at 9:20. And it doesn't help that he's in California, now I'm in New Jersey, so this is going to be a long fucking night. The biggest thing with him is I will make suggestions on, we need to move this story up. This can go down here. I try to structure it a little bit more for him because it's so much sometimes. And it's a normal first draft for him is 40,000 words. It doesn't always end up being 40,000 words, but the first draft is normally 40,000 words. My favorite Meltzer story, when Ronda Rousey's first contract was coming up with the WWE, he wrote it as a one-line bit in the bottom section of the WWE. And I called him and I was like, hey, this is a bigger story than I think you're not lending credence to, but I think you're kind of underselling what this actually means to the company. And we talked about it. You know, WWE got on Fox because of her. This is more than just her contract expiring. This is a bigger deal. We moved it up to the top, and it was the top story in that week's Observer, and it blew the internet up because at that point, no one had actually sat there and said, hey, by the way, she's leaving. No one said it. Everyone talked about it. There were little hints. Now, mind you, she didn't leave. WWE fucked up and let her contract roll over, and no one ever cut her. Just one of the reasons why Mark Carrano doesn't have a job in the WWE anymore. That being said, it's a big story. And like that type of stuff sometimes has to, this is going to sound shitty, and this is one of the things Eric hates. He's performing a service, he's reporting the news, but the problem ends up being is it's still, you have to sell what you're doing. And if you're not making this a big story, it's a big story. Mm-hmm. And some of that, a lot of that is, you know, what we bounce off back and forth. He gives me a producer credit. I'll take it. I don't write a goddamn word in that newsletter, but I give him advice on where to put things, give him advice on, you know, this story should be up, down, whatever the case may be. All that comes from him. He types literally everything, and it is exhausting.
Is there ever been a topic, and you don't have to tell us what the topic is or anything, or that you were like, oh, this will be a great story, and the podcaster, not Conrad, but the other person was like, no, I don't really want to do that, or was reluctant. Yes. So, and then you just kind of have to, you put it aside, hoping maybe one day.
Have to pivot. I don't know. I'll say it. I don't care. The 83 Weeks episode that we were going to do on Eddie Guerrero ended up being a dumpster fire. And Eddie wrote some really, really negative things about Eric in his book. I don't think Eric realized that at the time. He told me he skimmed the research. There was a redemption story that was in there. So Eddie was very negative on Eric during his time in WCW. When Eric left WCW, Eddie saw the side of Eric that, you know, I see now what you are going through, all this. We never got to that point, and it ended up being a disaster. One of the things I've learned from that episode is that when you're discussing people like that, people that are no longer with us, and whatever if they're talking negatively or positively about anybody, they're not here to defend themselves anymore.
Right.
So as much as the goal of that episode was to be the redemption story, and Eddie talked about how much he credits Eric and things like that, Eric sat through an hour and a half of Eddie shitting on him, and it just wasn't good business. It wasn't a good podcast. It just didn't work.
And Eric can't fire back on a dead man.
Correct. So at what point does Eric go, you know, I can't defend myself.
Yeah.
I can't shit on him. So instead of him being able to go, well, I see his point here. You can only say that so much. And it was too much. Mm-hmm. That is one I wish I could take back and pull back. Other than that, there are things that we've talked about. Some people just don't remember. And I love Eric to death. He's one of them. But if there's nothing that stands out to the host, it's going to be a shitty podcast, and then
Right.
we'll move on from that point.
Well, before we wrap up, I want to ask you, since our common bond is refereeing,
Mhm.
do any matches stick out in your head that, wow, I was just a part of something very special
Yes.
that pumps you up? Like you're going to be up most of the night because you're having a hard time coming down
Yep.
from being a part of something that massive.
I can tell you the biggest match. Okay, 2 matches. Chris Hero and Eddie Kingston had a loser leaves town match in ZZW, and Bryce normally refereed Hero Kingston matches because of his relationship with them. Bryce had Shimmer in Chicago and couldn't make the show, and I was given the task of running the card. So I put myself in that match, and it is it is by far the best wrestling match I've ever been a part of. The other one was Cage of Death. I don't remember the number. It might have been 7. I had taken a Yakuza kick 2 matches previously. Now, Yakuza kick, if you don't know, is a straight kick coming off, running towards you, and you take like this. I was too close to the ropes, so by the time he ducked and I took the kick, I got flattened into the ropes, and it really fucking hurt. Well, my next match is 2 matches later, about 15 minutes later. I'm still having trouble breathing because it fucking hit me right in the chest instead of me taking the bump and falling like this. Well, we're in a triangle cage of death match with a fire spot at the finish, ladders being thrown around, thumbtacks on the pads. Nothing more chaotic. And if you ever want to see Necro Butcher get knocked the fuck out, it's that match. It's Cage of Death 7 now. It just came to me. So Justice Payne, who's no longer with us, threw a ladder in the ring, and Necro didn't know it was coming, hit Necro in the head and knocked him out. So it's just messy. The Joker got thrown off a platform through fire. First time I've ever been in the ring for a fire spot. Not fun. Super hot. I didn't get burned. Happy about that. But literally the next month, I got thrown in a barbed wire and I was like, I really don't like doing this shit anymore. Also, the worst bump I've ever taken, I took a pile driver through a table from Nick Gage that was not talked about ahead of time. It was not agreed upon ahead of time, and I did not feel comfortable doing. I got pushed into working that show after sitting in the balcony for the first 4 matches, having myself a couple cocktails because I wasn't on the show, and then one of the refs got hurt, and they rushed me to do it. So I did it, and you'll see a very young Adam Cole try to pull me out and save me because that's when he was training to be a student. And I took a choke breaker and a pile driver through a table, and that one fucked my neck up for a long time.
Oh,
but yeah, that one's not that fun.
Do you want to ref anymore lately? Like, are you thinking about? I mean, you don't
miss it.
Nostalgic, I guess.
0%.
0%. On my
Well,
Facebook memories today, it came up that in 2020 I was refereeing my last match. I was stepping away to spend time with my grandkids, taking them wrestling. That's our common bond. We watch wrestling together. And I was looking at it thinking that that day I'm in it.
Yep.
But then COVID hit in 2020. And then when we went to our first show in 2021, I took the grandkids, and it just sucked being in the crowd. And I said, I can't do this, y'all. I got to get back in there.
Yep. We did so full disclosure, I did a Chikara show that was supposed to be my last one. I was a heel ref for a long time. I turned babyface. Didn't need the send off, but it was just closing the story at that point in time. Finished my story. Go to the back. This is it. Be the last time I ever ref. I had no interest in going back until Ric Flair's last match. And Conrad said, what do you want to do? And I said, I've never refereed on pay-per-view. I don't count women's extreme wrestling, but I've never refereed on a live pay-per-view. And he said, done. It's like, okay. I consider myself an employee for one night of Jim Crockett Promotions. Not many people can say that. Mm-hmm. Me and Dave have a shirt with a JCP patch on it. Not many people can say that. I got to be on pay-per-view. Not many people can say that. And it doesn't, short of Dan Engler texted me tomorrow saying, hey, you want to work WrestleMania? Fuck yeah, of course. Yes.
Well, I mean, and
100%.
that crowd that you performed in front of, not very many people in the Indies perform in front of a crowd that big.
No, absolutely not.
Rachel Ellering came into BIW, and we were talking about Ric Flair's last match, and she said that was the biggest crowd she'd ever performed in front of.
8,000 people doesn't happen often. AEW's not drawing 8,000 people right now for TV tapings.
And those 8,000 people were ravaged, and they wanted to be there,
100%.
and were just, I mean, that wasn't even a normal 8,000 crowd, for wrestling.
Everyone bought in everything.
Super fans.
But I get nervous in front of smaller crowds, but I wouldn't, like when I went to the ring for the Von Erichs and Briscoes, I went to the ring a little early because they were doing the segment with Lawler in the back, and I went out too early. But just standing in the ring, taking it all in.
It's amazing.
It was great, but I mean, nervous was not until the music hit. When the music hit and they were coming to the ring, then I got the butterflies. But just standing in the ring, taking it all in was one of the coolest experiences.
I have two questions for you, Dave. One, have you ever worked with a IFB before?
Once before. I
had never done that. I'd never had to.
I couldn't hear through it the time before.
So literally, I think we were in our meeting. We got done, and I was like, "Where do I get it?" And they're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "I don't have one." And they're like, "Oh, you don't have one?" I'm like, "No, I haven't refereed in like fucking 10 years. Like, I never did TV. I never did that. I don't have one." They're like, "Well, you're gonna have to borrow one." I'm like, "From who?" So it was this whole thing. I get the mic pack on, and they're like, "Well, you can't have it stick out of your back." I'm like, "I don't fucking know. Like, what do you want me to do?" They're like, "You gotta put it in your pocket." I'm like, "Then what?" "Well, you got to cut a hole to put the run." And I'm like, "This is fucking too much. Do I need this?" And they're like, "Yeah, you got to hear your time cues." I'm like, I sat with the guys in the back. I've known Jonathan Gresham forever from Chikara. When we sat there and we went over the match, I remember I was like, "You guys are going to go short." And they're like, "No, we won't." I'm like, "I'm telling you, you're going to go short. We're supposed to be 8 to 10. You're at 6. Like, there's no way we're at 6 minutes." I'm like, "Okay. I'm not here to screw with you." I said my piece. We got done in 5 minutes and like 45 seconds. I did not need that fucking thing in my ear at all. I got to the back. I took it out. I was like, "Here, it was a waste of fucking time. You didn't need this." And they're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "I didn't need any time cues. We were well under what we had to be."
Like, it caused me a little anxiety.
But like, I've never been in a match where someone's been in my ear, and in like, you're 1 minute in, you're 2. I'm like, I want to be like, I know what time is. I got it. I hear you. And like, I'm not saying that to Tom Pritchard at the time. I'm like, great, I have this. But like, I got done. I was like, it's fucking stupid. Like, this is a complete waste of like the hole in my pants now. Like this, there's no need for this. I've never done an IFB before. But the other thing is, you realize you worked in a building where there was a Stargate.
Yeah.
That to me is what blew me away. Like, standing in the ring and just looking out and being like, Flair headlined a Stargate here before. Luger, Sting, Steamboat.
Hulk Hogan, Harley Race with a table spot.
It's all happened in this building. Why is my schmuck ass standing here right now looking out at Coach Rosie in the front row? Like, how did this even happen? And I have a ton of video on my phone from that night. I have Rick's entrance when the music hit, him in the tunnel and walking him out. I have that video. I have video of Jeff getting ready to go out there with Karen. I have video of all of that, and I will never ever delete that. That is the moment. Now, sitting here looking back at it, it's been over a year, right? Yeah.
No, almost 2.
Man, time flies. Looking at that, what else could I accomplish? Short of, once again, Dan Engler texting me like, "Hey, we need a ref for WrestleMania." "Oh, I'll bring my gear. Sure. No problem whatsoever. Short of, Bryce hitting me up, "Hey, AEW's in town. You want a ref?" I would love to be able to do TV and show it to my kids.
Dude, I had my gear bag in my car when I went to WWE the other night.
You should always bring your gear. Always. Doesn't matter. Somebody could have collapsed in the second match.
I want to take a minute to thank Road Dogg for the tickets. I got hooked up by Road Dogg, and between Conrad and Road Dogg, I mean, my God, just
Yep. I'm
kind,
still waiting for
kind
my
people.
WrestleMania tickets for a dog if you're watching.
But I'm like, I'm taking my ref gear because Road Dogg runs the thing, and if he said, "Hey, you wouldn't happen to have your gear," because maybe he wants to, maybe just out of for shits and giggles, he like let's add an appearance in WWE to his resume, just in case.
Yep.
But I damn sure wasn't going to say I don't have my gear.
No, never. I absolutely not. It's funny because like when I stopped refereeing, I'd still go to shows. People would invite me. I'd go and they'd be like, "You have your gear?" I'm like, "Nope." I'm like, "You don't bring your gear?" I'm like, two things. One, I've gained 20 pounds from the last time I refereed. I don't think I'd fit in anything I have anymore. And two, I don't want the itch. I'm perfectly fine sitting up in the balcony, having a couple beers, bullshitting and watching. I don't miss it. I really didn't miss it. But I went to a WWE show and I had my gear.
That
You
first
just never
low-key,
know.
big hog low-key big hog weekend in Huntsville.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Rocket City, and they were asking me if I wanted to referee, and I didn't have my gear. And they go, "Why didn't you bring your gear?" And I said, "Because I didn't come to referee." Well, we can get you a referee shirt. I said, "Yeah, but I'm wearing jeans."
Yeah. Listen.
Oh, it won't matter here. It won't matter here. And I said, "It matters to me."
I refereed one match in jeans, and I was leaving the building, and it was a disaster of a CZW show. The main event ended in 5 minutes. It was Justice Payne and Nick Gage. Nick Gage got hurt, so they're trying to save the show. I love Bryce to death, but Bryce packed the shit, got the fuck out of there so fast and like major headspin. I'm in jeans. I'm at the back door, and I got grabbed and like, "Hey, you need to go out there and referee." And I'm like, I don't have time to get changed. Like, you don't need to get. I'm in sneakers, jeans, and a ref shirt that wasn't even mine. And they went 15 minutes, and I'm like, "Can we be done, please? You guys are delaying my
an
drinking.
Emergency pinch, and you're saving the show.
Just
I can see it, but
go home."
But I don't want a picture out there of me with a referee shirt and jeans.
All right, I'm going to bury everybody. The role of a referee has never been more important than it is now because everybody knows it's a work and your job is to be able to communicate between the boys. But I've never seen more referees ill-prepared in a professional wrestling ring than I've seen. I've seen so many people send me links to stuff, and I'm like, please go to school. Please learn. Sit with the guys when they put matches together. Know what you're doing. Follow the spots. If you can't recite their spots, you shouldn't be in there because you need to know when to pick up your count. You know when to speed up, when to slow down. And I preach this to every referee I come across. Don't be afraid to tell them to slow down. It's okay. If they're going too fast, tell them to slow down. Grab a chin lock. Build heat. It's okay. You're the general out there. If your job is to send them home, you can tell them to slow down. You absolutely have that capability. Don't be meek. Don't be mild. Stand up and say it. It's fine. I told those guys in Nashville, you guys are going to go super quick and blow through all your stuff and be done in 5 minutes. I was dead on. Learn your craft, practice your craft, know what you're doing. And if you're not going to do that, get out. Because if you just want to stand there, be someone that wears stripes and be on a YouTube clip, that's fine. But you're going to be on the wrong YouTube clip. You're going to look like a schmuck. And you need to be professional at all times. Sit there with the boys, help them put their spots together. Tell them if something doesn't make sense. It's okay.
And don't be afraid to tell them that, well, they told the story of that they were working a knee in the first match. So, and it's like, oh, thanks for that. And they'll move it to an arm. I mean, it's
100%.
But sometimes if you don't say anything,
if you're not going to be involved, then
you got the same spots all through the show.
You're going to feel the repercussions. These indie shows don't have agents.
I tell these guys when they ask me about refereeing, I said, just you're there to work.
Yep.
Work.
Treat it as a job.
Because sometimes you're in there with talent that's so good that you find yourself watching.
Yep.
And I was in there with Steve Anthony once, and Steve Anthony's brilliant in the ring. And I was watching, and he just said, "I challenge you to work with me," and it snapped me out of it. And I've been and I've been that way. I'm very aware now.
Mm-hmm.
And if it starts to happen, I snap out of it pretty quick now, because luckily when you're working with incredibly talented people, it's
You got to step your game up.
right, and it's easy to want to watch.
Yep, it's easy to be one of them.
But boy, those nights
Easy
when
to get lost.
it's all clicks and it's you're part of something really special. But just for me, it was Larry D and Angel Camacho.
Wow, that's
just
a name.
Just early opening match, and Larry D got the crowd behind him early, and the match went long, but it didn't matter because it was just magic what they did.
Yeah, and I will tell you my favorite going long story. Michael Elgin. I don't remember who he wrestled, but they drove down from Canada for a dark match in CZW. He had 6 minutes. They were at 12 minutes. And I see everybody on the balcony, and I'm like, go home, go home, go home. They refused to go. They kept going. And I'm watching them, and literally there's a spot. I think it's a dive. To do a dive towards the hard cam, and that's where the balcony was. And I see them, and I'm like, and I didn't care at this point because I was so frustrated. I'm like, they won't go home, and I screamed it. I didn't care. They got back in the ring, and they went immediately home. We got in the back, and Elgin was like, what the fuck was that? I'm like, I screamed at you for the last 7 minutes to go home. Well, you embarrassed us out there. You embarrassed yourself. Mm-hmm. If your goal here is to get a job, I promise you this, you're not coming back. Fuck you. Who the fuck are you think you are? I'm the guy who's telling you you're probably not going to be coming back because no one's going to trust you anymore to put you on a card. He never came back. He ended up being a piece of shit anyway. Not a surprise at the end of the day what he did. But if you go over and you're not doing something good, Kevin Steen, El Generico, Zach Cietti, Excess did a debut match at the ECW arena for us on a day that we did 2 shows. They were given 12 minutes. 12 minutes, they were starting to go home, and we radioed down to them and said, keep going. They ended up doing 22 minutes. Crowd was insane. 4 stars were born that night. But the rest of the guys on the card were running up the steps. Tell them to go home. Tell them to go home. No, we're good. We're enjoying this. The crowd's behind them. They haven't gone too long. They're stretching it out. And you got to remember something. We tell them to go 12, and we tell them to go another 10 minutes. And while they're in the ring, it's up to them to come up with the stuff. So they're calling everything on the fly. They did an amazing job. Got to the back, standing ovation. We heard it from some of the veterans at towards the night, as they were like, we were starting to cut times. We had to get done one show, move to the second show. And they were all pissed off about it. I'm like, then go out and do what they were doing, and you might get a couple more minutes while you're out there. And no one wants to hear that. But if you're good at what you're doing, and you bust your ass and you go out there and you do an amazing job, sometimes you get that extra time while you're out there, and you got to relish it. And the rest of the car wasn't happy about it. And it was kind of like, sorry, it was so good. We wanted more. And if we want more, we're going to give them more. If you're upset about it, go out and do the same stuff they were doing, but get over, and you'll get there. And it's one of those things. You know it when you know it.
Well, Derek, we've had such a good time tonight talking to you. I can't thank you enough for coming on our show. I hope you come back again sometime.
Whenever you invite me, I'll be here.
We'll definitely do it. We've had a good time, and you're so fascinating. I mean, we've gone an hour and 45 minutes, and I'm like, damn, we've gone an hour and 45 minutes. It just feels like we got started.
Oh, okay. Shit, why do I not have that's not good. I don't have a draft from Dave Meltzer yet. I'm fucked. That's not good at all.
Yeah, you got a little bit to read tonight.
Yeah, I don't even want to read it. I already read part of it today.
It's been something. Oh, goodness.
It's going to get messy.
It's a dark day for wrestling today.
Yes, it is.
Just, I told Amy, I said, let's just pass on our opinions on it this week. Let's let more come out before we form an opinion.
I don't know that you'll ever stop hearing things come out.
I'm waiting for something to come out that I doubt.
I don't know if you're going to, I don't think, listen, Of the things I expected to read today, Vince McMahon shitting on a woman was not one of them. And I
No,
read that and I was just like, yeah,
it makes
nah.
that's good shit. Go to me to have gives it a completely different meaning.
It's just everything changed, like pronouns, pal, like I think I've said every sentence to everyone in wrestling today with pal.
Goodness.
Like I understand why Brock Lesnar like throws hissy fits now. I get it because goddamn, like he's a wet dude. I shouldn't make jokes about this. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm just hoping that there's people that don't have anything to do with it, don't get none on them, just being in that proximity.
It's gonna be tough.
Bad day to be a Vince guy.
Terrible day to be a Vince guy.
Yeah. Well, all right, Derek. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, guys.
Have a good night.
It was fun.
Thank you.
Derek Sabato, everybody.
Yay! That was great.
I could talk to him all night.
Definitely.
We have those episodes where you just get to talking, and all of a sudden, bam! I looked up at the clock, and I'm like, man, we can't keep him all night.
I know. Well, and like you said, you all have the shared refereeing experience.
And we didn't even hardly talk referee, and I had all the other stuff was so fascinating.
Oh yeah, and then like you said, yes, that was really good. Yeah.
Shout out to the chat. How y'all doing tonight, y'all? Thanks for being with us, Andrew, Keith, Willie Buck, Allison Faye, Michael Whitaker, Brandon Young. Hope you enjoyed the game.
Definitely, Keith. I could definitely have listened to just talk to Derek because he also.
Hey, we're on Twitch tonight.
We are. How come?
I guess I clicked the link for Twitch and it actually worked. And thanks, because right off the bat we got somebody from we got a spammer. We got our first spammer in the chat. Hello, sorry for bothering you. I'm over here trying to figure out how to block them, and I'm like, why can't I block them? And then
kept putting it up.
They're on Twitch. So,
but they want to offer some promotion.
I mean, that's when I got distracted because I'm like, what in the actual? Hey, Matt Blackstock, new ad-free show members joined us tonight. Thank you.
Oh, hey!
Thanks for joining us, Matt. Welcome.
I think to pivot. The most fascinating events happening this weekend, as you all know, it's my absolute favorite. It is the Royal Rumble. And Keith, I've noticed him, Coach, I don't know why I call him Keith. Coach Keith is talking about how he's packing his bags because there's a big Top Guy event happening in Tampa over the Royal Rumble weekend. And Allison Faye's going too. Very sad that I'm not going, but that is okay. I will live through Allison Faye and all their pictures.
Well, from what I've heard today in the news, I've got a great idea for our Royal Rumble wrap-up show next week.
Okay.
I'm going to get one of my wrestling rings. I got one of those full-size scale rings. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to put 30 vibrating dildos in it.
Nice.
And we're going to turn them on, and they'll all vibrate. And the last one to stay in the ring will be the winner of the dildo Royal Rumble.
Do they have?
And we'll name them, and we'll name them after wrestlers. We'll like have Abdullah the dildo.
Do you have 30 just laying around? You're gonna have to go buy some.
Oh, we don't have a budget for 30 of those.
And they need.
It was such a good idea.
That was until it came down to the production. Oh man. Well, keep working on that one.
For those of y'all listening that don't get the reference, when y'all start hearing about all this that's come out about Vince McMahon today, the allegations that he had sex toys and he named them after WWE wrestlers. So that's all I'm going to talk about tonight. I was going for some high humor, but it would be a hell of a gimmick. You watch somebody's gonna steal that idea and put it on TikTok now.
Oh yeah, it's probably already happened. But you know what? I could see why I would do something like that, but why would he do something like that? You know what I mean? Like, why would Why wouldn't he name them after the divas? You know what I'm saying? But I don't
because the
know.
Divas don't have that apparatus.
I know, but I'm just saying. Okay, it doesn't
I
matter.
mean, he might have used. He was had some fit. I think there was some fisting going on too, so he might have named the fists after one of them,
I do
after
not
the
want to
Divas.
know any more
I'm just
about
saying.
that. I
I
know.
mean, the man
I don't.
crap. The man allegedly crapped on a woman's head in a three-way.
Yeah.
I mean,
And are we thinking that's with John Laurinaitis?
how would you
Probably.
like to be JR and realize that you lost your job as head of talent relations because Vince would rather tag team with John Laurinaitis?
Oh, I'm sure he would be very happy not to have all of this mess sitting on his head.
Yeah, he dodged a bullet with that one.
I mean,
All right.
unfortunately, not like you, right? You didn't dodge no bullets.
I didn't dodge no bullet.
And you came out better for it, though, right?
Yeah.
Got a little gold in the head. Okay. Well, like I said, I we're just gonna keep. I wish everybody keep their bedroom doors shut. You whatever you do behind your bedroom doors, fabulous. We don't need to know all of it, but now we're going to. But anyway, but we all know palm water does not have 30 vibrators. But that's
I do
all
not
good to
have
know.
35. I don't have one.
I don't believe that. That's okay. No, I'm just kidding. I don't care.
Mm.
I don't know. Oh, okay. Anyway, I want.
Andrew Hermes said, "You can tell Teppy is at the game." Yeah.
Bless. Yeah, really. She's gonna die. I'm like, what in the world?
But it's all about the game and how you play it. All about this double dong and who's going to take it.
Oh my God. Just
Ow.
so just like you said.
Amy, talk
Just
about the Royal Rumble. Save me from
yes.
myself.
Yes, I'm gonna save you from yourself. So what we're gonna do, guys, get out all our people in the chat out there. Next week, what we plan on doing on the 30th, right? January 30th. That's a
Yeah,
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yes.
Tuesday.
Next Tuesday on January 30th, 7 Central, here with us, we're going to go over obviously the Royal Rumble. We're going to talk about the Elimination Chamber because we're hoping after the Royal Rumble, we'll kind of maybe see some ideas. Obviously, who wins the Royal Rumble is going to give you an idea of maybe what belt they're going to go for and who they're going to be facing. So, we're going to kind of do a lot of booking. And so what I've got is I've got some questions and I want us to write down our predictions. I have Justin because I thought he was going to join us late, but we can get his later.
Okay.
Okay, Dave, who do you think is going to be the first entrant into the Women's Royal Rumble?
Nia Jax.
And do you think that just because, or you think she'll go all the way? Do you think, or
I
you just
think
think
she's going
that's
to do.
a
I think she's going to have a lot of eliminations
okay?
until
Very
somebody
cool.
can get in there and go with her, and then there'll be strength in numbers to get her eliminated.
Yeah, they usually have to do that with her too. Like in the previous ones, has it
Yeah,
like?
and they're really pushing her as a monster right now.
Mm-hmm.
They had her strong at the house show that I went to too against Ivy Nile.
Good deal. Okay.
Allison Faye thinks that she's winning it,
Ah,
not from the first position.
well, she might. You never know. They've done that. They've done that in the men's. Shawn Michaels won. There's been times when people have won from the first. So it'd be
Yeah,
interesting. I mean, to see. Um,
I'd like to see it. I love her.
you'd like to see her win it?
I'd love to see it. I love Nia Jax.
Yeah. No, I think she's good. I really do think.
She's going to
I
have a
think
strong showing. She's going to probably have most eliminations. I mean, she's going to be in there for a while, but it's going to eventually be numbers. Because I mean, go ahead. We about get to who I think is going to win it.
yeah, because that is a question. I do think. I do think it's going to be Becky Lynch. I do see her going all the way. I think that she is. I think she's the type that would want to be number one and go all the way and just can carry that man, the man persona through. So I do think Becky Lynch is going to be the first one. What about the men's? Who do you think the first entrant will be for the men?
The first entrant for the men is going to be Finn Balor. No,
Okay.
no, no. It's gonna be a baby face. It's gonna be a baby face. Kicking off the men's. Jey Uso.
You think it's going to be Jey Uso?
Yeah, I think
How,
it's gonna be Jey. I think Jey Uso is gonna go in early.
Terry has a good idea, like just starting with Punk and Cody. That could be. I mean, that will definitely be interesting as the match goes on to see them if they're able to fight, and then of course someone else comes out and breaks, gets in the way or whatever.
I
It'll be
think he's got
interesting.
the right idea, but I think they're gonna be towards the middle. I think it's gonna be towards the middle. And I don't know why I feel this way, but I don't feel like Punk can go an hour right now.
Well, maybe not. Do you think
He's had too much time off. It's awful hard to take time off and go an hour.
do you think they should even let Punk and Cody touch? Like they can be in the Royal Rumble, but like do you think that that could be something that, you know, again, you keep building up that animosity, or you keep kind of building up the
I wouldn't be
interest?
surprised if they work together for a while.
Really? Hmm.
It's a convoluted story.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's I'm telling you, it's hard to predict because the WWE is so top heavy with talent right now.
That's very true. And again, because this is really going to be the first inkling for us, to even do some to eliminate some things. Because obviously, like you said, okay, let's just pretend Gunther wins. Well, he's already got something, which I know Derek said that's, but what I'm saying is that, he's already had something with Seth Rollins. So you can kind of see that direction versus if someone like a Cody wins, then you're gonna like, okay, well, surely if Cody's, he's gonna take on Roman, and then you could kind of maybe start putting put together some little pieces, maybe. But I
I
mean, who
think this
knows?
Royal Rumble is going to be one of the most fascinating ones they've had in years because there's
And,
just so many different ways that you can go and it not be wrong.
right, and I think this will be the most unpredictable. Like even though we're gonna try predict a few things. Who do I think is gonna be the first entrant? Um, how many people have declared for it? Do you know?
I saw it a little while ago. I saw it. I can bring it up for you real quick. I looked at it last night.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be. I mean, just I don't like how people do that.
Yeah, the declaring seems ridiculous to me.
Yeah,
Um,
because what's going to stop?
Cody, Punk, Nakamura, Lashley, McIntyre, Gunther, Kofi, and Damian Priest.
Those are the only ones that have. That
Announced participants
interesting.
as of January 25th, 2024. On the women, Bailey, Nia Jax, Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair.
See, I think that's going to be interesting. Okay. I'll come back. I got to think about that. How many women from NXT do you think will be in this year's Royal Rumble?
Uh, Honestly, I don't know enough about the women in NXT to have an educated uh, opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be shocked if Tiffany Stratton wasn't in it. I'd be shocked if the women's champion wasn't in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, maybe three.
You think
Maybe
three?
three.
I think I'm liking six, only because they usually have a pretty large number of women from NXT in the Women's Royal Rumble. And they've got some good talent down there. And again, they don't have to be, you know, they could just be someone that's being featured or whatever because, they come in, um, they're not expected to win it or anything like that. But I think out of the 30, I think at least 6. I think. All right. Who do you think is going to win the men's Royal Rumble?
Hmm. uh, I'm going to say Gunther.
So
I
you think
really feel
Gunther?
strongly that Gunther may win it
That would be good.
because I think if they're going with this Cody and Punk deal,
Uh-huh.
uh, unless Cody and Punk are co-winners, and it's a 3-way dance with Roman at WrestleMania.
Oh, that would
They could hit the ground at the same time. It could happen. But I think Gunther's going to win it and go after Seth, which I think Gunther should go after Roman. That would be my perfect scenario. But I think that Gunther's going to win and go after Seth because Cody and Punk don't need to win to have WrestleMania plans.
right.
I mean, there can be some creative storytelling to get them where they want to go.
Right. I am actually going to pick Cody for the winner. Not but I think they could do a lot of creativity through that to make you feel like it's still not going to be him against Roman.
Oh,
Because I mean,
and back to the women, I think Liv Morgan's going to win it. I think when Morgan's coming back, she's going to be surprised and she's going to win.
I think
CBS Sports is reporting 11 of the men and 6 of the women are confirmed. That's what Terry's telling us.
hey Ben, I actually think I can't decide between Becky and I think Bailey's going to win it, the women's Royal Rumble. I think that she's going to win it, and that's going to, that damage control, like it's time for them to kind of, disintegrate in some way. I think, I mean, I just think there's way too many people in it, and I just feel like Bailey's on the out.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
Bailey's definitely the odd one out. And
yeah,
I think, in my heart of hearts, I think Charlotte Flair, because they seem that tension's kind of died.
uh huh,
I think Charlotte Flair getting hurt put the kibosh on what the plan was because I genuinely feel like they were going to do the 4 horsewomen, the 4 horsewomen against damage control. You would have had Charlotte and Bailey come together with Becky and possibly a returning Sasha or
right.
Mercedes. Because if she comes back, I think she's going to be Mercedes.
Really? If she comes back to the WWE, you don't think she'd stay? I mean, they wouldn't say you're Sasha.
No, I think they want to, but I think for her to come back there, I
Oh,
think that she would want. I think that to her, I think being able to come in as her own name now that she's gone out on her own.
right.
Why can Cody come back and be Cody? Why can CM Punk be CM Punk? Why can AJ Styles be AJ Styles? Why do I got to come back as Sasha Banks? And don't say because that's what I've always been. Well, I was that in NXT, but why is it that Pete Dunne was Butch when he came up, and now he's Pete Dunne again?
Yeah,
So,
because they made a huge mistake making them Butch. That's
yeah.
the only reason why.
And I do believe that Mercedes Moné has a very high opinion of herself. And
Do
it's
you
not
think?
so much. I think it's a matter of wanting to feel respected.
Yes, but do you think WWE has that high of opinion of her? Do you think they'd pay to have her back?
I don't think so.
See, I don't think so either.
Well, it depends on what she left, who her problem was with. If her problem was with Vince, and Triple H never had a problem with her,
But I think it's the money that she wants, don't you? I
because
mean, I think
yeah,
I think it's going to come down to money. I mean, she's going to expect, or again, you have a high opinion of yourself. You're going to want to have a certain amount of money, I would think.
yeah.
You know what?
But what
I'm
I'm
going to
saying is,
put
I think that the 4 horsewomen, but
sad
three,
that
but
never
3,
happened.
but 3 of the 4 would have worked. And I think that's what I feel like. I don't know anything. I just feel like that's where it was going.
I'm
And I
going
think,
to,
and let's shout out to Charlotte Flair she's doing a hell of a job on her recovery. 2 weeks after surgery, she's already on the treadmill.
yeah.
So anyway, but I do feel like it's going to be Liv Morgan that's going to come back and actually win the Rumble. But I
All
don't know
right.
if she'll go after, and because I don't think that I don't think Becky Lynch has to win the Rumble to go after Rhea.
Well, no, not at all.
Liv could go after Io, and that leaves Becky to and Nia. I mean Becky and Rhea.
To do whatever.
Yeah, I mean, because you got one champion that's going to have to defend against somebody that didn't win the Rumble.
Right. Well, and two,
But they don't, unless they do a women's elimination chamber.
well, they have in the past, haven't they?
They did. Did they last year?
I feel like I've seen it, but maybe I mean I could be wrong. But I don't know if they would do that for the other title. You know what I'm saying? Kind of how that works. But
All right. What else we got?
well, I was going to say I think Drew McIntyre is going to be the first entrant. I think that's my. I think he's got a good enough entrance that would be pretty pumped up for the crowd. I think they'd like that. Who do you think is going to win the U.S. title match between Logan Paul and Kevin Owen?
Logan Paul.
See, I do too. I do too. I just think.
Yeah, I think Logan Paul goes into WrestleMania as the U.S. champion
and lose it there.
He could.
Who do you think wins? Well, again, I think Derek even mentioned it. Yeah, I do like R-Truth as a first entrant too. I don't think anybody in the world thinks that this Fatal 4-Way is going to go anyway but Roman still the champion. Is that?
Yeah, because there's no disqualification in a 4-way.
Exactly. So
it's going to be more bloodline fuckery.
And whoever else. So my last question. So okay, everybody thinks Roman. That's kind of what I thought. Do we see The Rock? Do you think we see The Rock in any capacity? You know, like in the building, not just like a video packaging, but like, does The Rock have anything to do with, do we see him at this Royal Rumble?
Being on the board now, maybe. And if they're going with Rock and Roman at WrestleMania, then we're going to see The Rock, because he may try to come out and try to offset some of the fuckery that's going to be going on.
Mm-hmm. Yes, or even be like, see him. Yes. What do you think? Do you think we see Rock as number 30? What would be the odds of that? And he wins the Royal Rumble?
Ooh. Yeah, because Roman has no reason to give The Rock a title shot at WrestleMania. The Rock coming in and winning it. Oh, that's
we'll
a
pencil
good.
It in that was our idea in case it happens. Allison says she.
You make a good point there, Amy. The Rock may win the Men's Royal Rumble. Now that you mentioned it.
Could you imagine that place if his music hit number 30? Allison Faye, you let us know if you really did pee your pants when it happens. And he wins. So what will be interesting is if
she did. That's not a prediction. That's a spoiler.
What would be really interesting is that at this Fatal 4-Way, exactly like you said, some kind of shenanigans, Roman's running his mouth.
Rock won't interfere in that.
No,
not if he's in the Rumble, but because also they got to be successful with that for Roman to win the match.
Right. I could see Roman though running his match like nobody could. Nobody could take this from me. Or what do you think? Even maybe mouthing to The Rock or everybody or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And then that just makes The Rock entering number 30 that more just exciting. If Roman had done a bunch of running his mouth after that match or whatever, I don't know.
What if Chikara Okada is number 1 in the Royal Rumble?
Oh, she will. Allison will die.
It's killing me that I can't watch it live this year.
You gotta work.
I'm refereeing. We're in Brookhaven this weekend.
Hey, I want to still talk to you about March. And
there we go. What else we got? Because we're at 2 hours and 10 minutes.
I think that's it. I think we've had a great guest. We've made our predictions. We're all. So
you're predicting? Okay, I'm picking Rock and Liv.
You want The Rock to win?
I want The Rock to win and Liv Morgan to win.
Okay, if Rock's in it, we pick him to win. If not, it's Gunther.
Well, then I'm wrong either way.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I do think Okada's going to be the surprise in the men's.
Andrew Herman says his contract does not end until January 31st. Okada. Because it was the end of January.
I think they'd allow it.
To make a. So you think Okada will be a surprise entrant?
I do. I'm speaking it into existence.
Okay. But I think we've got a great show.
I think Naomi's going to be Naomi's Naomi. Yeah, she's going to be Naomi.
Yeah, she's definitely going to be.
I think she's going to be a surprise entrant, and there we go.
Can I just say how jealous I am of everybody going to Tampa? I know I've said
Yeah,
it.
I hate that I'm missing
okay.
it. I hate that I'm missing it.
Me too, but I've got some great trips planned, so I'm okay with it. And we always have Top Guy Weekend whenever that might be. So
we got Royal Rumble trivia, but we're going to table that and we'll use it next week.
Yeah, especially since it's later. All right.
All right.
Paul
We've said it all. We've said a lot. We want to thank Derek Sabato for joining us tonight.
Fabulous guest.
A great conversation. Man, I really like that guy. And
yes.
Just just a fun conversation with Derek Sabato and all the work he does with ad-free shows and Chris VanVliet and Dave Meltzer.
And apparently he's a vampire because he never sleeps. I don't know. I mean, I don't know when he would do a ref job. Maybe between 4 and 5 a.m. Because I
want to say something ugly to Justin and Teppy for prioritizing basketball over the show. I'm questioning their commitment.
I understand. Things come up.
Making me low-key hate basketball.
Oh.
I love hockey. I'm doing a show. Dallas Stars are playing right now.
That's some dedication.
Brandon went to the game, so he's not even giving me updates.
Maybe it's really bad.
I want to thank everybody in the chat for joining us tonight. Terry Weaver, Allison Fay, Coach Keith Morrison, Willie Buck, Ben Jones jumped on for a minute. Ben, we appreciate you because we're extremely popular in Australia. We made the top. We were up in like top 50.
I know.
In wrestling podcasts in Australia.
We appreciate you.
We're over, down, under. What was the other one I was looking for? I was going to thank our spammer. I was going to thank the spammer.
Oh, Celestial.
Yeah.
Matt Blackstock.
Thanks for spamming us. Welcoming us to Twitch. Maybe that's what we're going to expect on Twitch, but
that's the only comment we got off Twitch.
I don't know how we got hooked up on Twitch. I tried to make it work and it never worked, and I just accidentally clicked tonight and it worked.
That's like that thumb, right?
That's called falling down face first in a pile of shit and coming out smelling like a rose.
That only pond water can do. Constantly.
Yeah.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Talking Wrestling with Pond Water Dave YouTube channel. We love whenever we have new subscribers because the closer we get to 500 or 400, we have different people take on different tasks. Pond Water's getting ready to get cannonballed. Oh, and I saw Vladimir had a shirt called Cannonball Party, and it just has him. And I think it's pretty cool. I'm going to put your little face on there, and I think I'm excited. I know Vladimir's excited.
February 3rd.
February
10th. February 10th.
February 10th.
February 10th.
In between our. So also, just to let you all know and share with your friends, we got a really great February coming up. We've got some great names coming on with us. Dave's getting cannonballed, so you'll get to kind of see what that looks like in February. It's Valentine's Day, so men, don't forget your ladies. Ladies, don't forget your men's.
We're rolling along on the YouTube channel though. I think we're at 315, so we're growing.
Yes.
We've got some steady growth. We're feeling good about it. So go to pwdpod.com and subscribe.
Or go to get our shirts. I got a nice little Pond Water Talking Wrestling with Pond Water Dave shirt in the purple.
Yeah. Jumpinthepond.com for your.
Take care of all your needs.
And
okay, I feel like we're rambling now, Dave.
Well, we got to get our stuff in.
Yes. Men, don't forget your men. I'm sorely apologized, Andrew. My bad.
Big time belts.
Oh yes.
Big time belts. Almost forgot. Just get you a belt.
How can we forget Dave walking around his house wearing a belt so he feels like a badass?
I do feel like a badass. The Mississippi champion, the Missouri champion, the Texas champion.
I like those belts. The
Man.
BIW tag team belts. Those are nice.
The Battle Zone Junior Heavyweight's one of my favorites. The SWA has a lot of great belts. Big time belts can make your promotion look like $1 million damn dollars. Go to
Yes.
Facebook.com, Big Time Belts. They'll get you fixed up, high quality, low prices. Tell them Palm Water Dave sent you, and we thank Big Time Belts for sponsoring the pod.
Definitely. So long, farewell. No.
Do you think they're going to change the name of the Elimination Chamber
Because
in lieu of Vince's elimination story?
oh god.
They're going to call it the Big Ass Cage Match.
Oh Jesus. You know, I was I was just a quick statement, but I'm just sitting there like how would you feel like being the kids, the grandkids, or just knowing, they're like that's your dad. That's a story about your dad shitting on some woman that he's having a threesome with. Like just I feel Jesus, Lord, just everybody
I don't
that
know.
is
For
involved.
$3 million, how bad could it be?
But you know what? Oh God. But seriously,
I'm kidding.
I
Ain't nobody
know.
gonna do that to me.
Papa's
God almighty.
But that's what I'm saying. Like it just, I mean, again, whatever you do behind your closed doors with the consenting person is whatever you do. But I mean, now everybody in the world's going to, and again, Vince McMahon is going to be in a weird way. It's going to be like, like when you want to talk about wrestling and you want to um, talk about the greatness wrestling of Chris Benoit. I feel like it's the same thing. Like it's almost like you whisper. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's going to be one of those things that now, when you say Vince McMahon,
No, I don't think it's the same thing. I mean,
no. I'm
if
just
you ask
saying,
Nancy, if you ask Chris Benoit's wife which one she'd
no,
rather have, I believe she'd take the poop on the head for $3 million.
no. I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about the
Oh,
acts. I'm just
okay.
saying, in conversation, there is a like. Yes, when you say Chris Benoit, you don't think about his, accolades. You think of that terrible
Yes.
situation and it's not a situation, the terrible act at the end. I feel like this is what's going to happen to Vince McMahon. You're not going to hear Vince McMahon's name and think about what he did for wrestling. It's going to be shut up. Y'all are terrible. But I'm just saying you're not going to get away from that. I think we're punch drunk at this point. You're not going to get away from that. Vince McMahon
It's
is
a
not gonna
delicate
get away from
subject, but
that.
you can't help but laugh.
Right. But I'm just saying you're not going
It
to be able
makes
to
you
say
go
his
back and
name.
look at all the stuff. Like I saw a clip where he was talking to Stephanie, and Stephanie was like, and all these times you had me go to dinner with your friends, and I was only 17. And I'm like, oh, that hits different now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
And having Trish Stratus crawl around and bark like a dog.
all of them. And then, like you said, the one ref back in the day who said he, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
all of that is going to be like, okay,
Well, if you
maybe
tell everybody you're a genetic jackhammer, then maybe you're telling them that I mean that's not a work, it's a shoot.
right. But again, it really does put into and we may end up hearing way more. More people come out and be like, "Yeah, that happened to me too," but I didn't think I could talk, I
Yeah,
mean,
we'll
it's
see.
just one of those things. But I'm super excited about the Royal Rumble. So
Me too.
I'm gonna have
My favorite of the year. I'm gonna try not to get any spoilers, and I'm gonna come home and watch it.
yes. Yes, you do. And then
I
we'll
may just
go over our results on
turn my
Tuesday.
phone off, and hopefully nobody will say anything.
That's probably smart because there's no way, especially with spoilers, surprises, things like that, there's no way you're not going to hear it. All right. I am the first lady of the Arn Anderson fan club.
And I'm
you can
Palm
find
Water
me-
Dave. And if we
Oh.
don't get canceled over me having too much fun at the chairman's expense, we'll see you next week here on Talking Wrestling with Pond Water Dave. Good night, everybody.